individual.
Okay.
Like you're looking directly at it. No, like you're directly there.
Yes.
She can do that
That's
out of a
good.
shoebox. Like, and on the cardboard, on paper.
I like that.
She can do that. All the characters, everything. Like cut them out.
Um, there is a matter that I want to discuss. No, that's fine. No, it's okay. Dante Nelson and Ronaldo McKenzie here from the Neoliberal Realm podcast, and there's a matter that we want to raise from a podcast episode we had with the deputy chief of Turning Point, who was also a deputy managing director of the city of Philadelphia, Mr. David Fair. We had him on the show before. He was back recently. We published an hour and a half show talking about homelessness, child, youth, and family, and about his agency's decision to transfer out all of its core programs.
Yes, he gave some good. There's some good insight and a lot of information and a lot of information in detail.
Yeah, and why we would want to probably discuss all of what he had said. There's one particular point that we want to discuss, which I actually wrote in an article in the Neoliberal Post, and the title Child Placement Exploring the Role of Philadelphia's CUAs, Child, Youth and Family Services, um, DHS, Department of Human Services, the department that handles child welfare in the city of Philadelphia. But I said to you that I wanted to in fact, I tweeted recently, shocking revelation. Hopefully, Philadelphia's new mayor will help to resolve this. Improving outcomes for children had meant DHS transferring out CYS case management services as a new CYS model to improve outcomes for children. But it seems they transferred the risks and maintained their authority, which seemed strategic. Strategic. You must probably. What am I talking about here? I want to talk about that in. I want to raise some concepts from that. I want to talk about that quickly. By the way, there's something in. That's what this podcast is about. But quickly, some news coming in. Ghana returns to the IMF, and they will. Ghana has agreed. The IMF staff and Ghana agreed to their first review of a $3 billion program. And of course, I've written passionately about that in my book, Neoliberalism, Globalization, Income Inequality, Poverty and Resistance, looking at how IMF, the World Bank, and their structural program has created dependent capitalist countries of the global south. Um, but so I wonder and Ghana has also been negatively impacted by the structural adjustment program of the IMF. Um, in fact, if you watch Life and Death, you'll find a former Prime Minister of Ghana talking about how structural adjustment has affected them. So it's interesting. It's interesting that they're now they have
Yes, that
agreed
is
to
interesting.
this $3 billion program. What is this program? But we want to talk. But that's not what this podcast is about today. We want to talk about one of a very important issue that was raised from the podcast discussion that I had with Mr. David Fair. Mr. David Fair, again, Deputy Chief at Turning Points, which is a shocking revelation in Philadelphia childcare system, exploring how systems are exploited. How systems are exploited. Where how DHS improving outcomes for children IOC um, was meant as a new model to improve child welfare. but in a sense it meant that they are transferring out their responsibility while still maintaining their authority. We'll talk about this. We'll read the article. We'll discuss the article coming up next on the Neoliberal podcast. Here is the article that I wrote and published October 5th, 2023 in the Neoliberal Post at ronaldocmckenzie.com, entitled Child Placement and Responsibility, Exploring the Role of Philadelphia's CYS-DHS. In the realm of child welfare, the role of government agencies and child welfare agencies, called CUAs, in Philadelphia, has raised some pressing questions. How can the Philadelphia Department of Human Services, DHS, make final decisions regarding child placement, even against the determinations of CUAs, while claiming immunity from the consequences of those decisions? This issue raises concerns about the allocation of responsibility within the child welfare system. It appears that CUAs were established as a mechanism for Philadelphia DHS to transfer the risks associated with child placement while retaining the authority to make the ultimate decisions regarding child safety. This has created an uneven distribution of responsibility and consequences within the system. Of contention is the immunity that DHS enjoys compared to the CUAs. While DHS can make the final call on child placement and escape the legal ramifications of those decisions, CUAs are left. Let me say that again. While DHS, the Department of Human Services, can make the final call on child placement and escape the legal ramifications of those decisions, CUA are left exposed. Interview Mr. David Fair, Deputy Chief at Turning Points, who discussed this at length with us at the last in one of our podcast episodes that's available on YouTube and all our audio streams. Did we not talk about that?
Yes, we did.
At length, and if you want to, and we won't rehash it here, but you can check the previous podcast that we did, where he talked about the issue of immunity and several cases where DHS made the final decision as it relates to placing a child in a foster home, overriding Turning Point's decision not to do so, which ended up in what? The child killing the foster parent. Then they are slapped with a lawsuit which their insurance had to pay, and now they have to pay. Now they are left with a high insurance requirement which they can't meet. We've talked about that. So this is not conspiracy and it is not hearsay. Now this stark contrast in accountability begs the question: should DHS provide more support to CUAs given their unique vulnerability? Should DHS provide more support to CUAs given their unique vulnerability? Alternatively, should DHS be allowed to override CUA decisions if agency is open to risks that DHS is largely protected against? I'm going to say that. Let me ask. And I hope we have another mayor's meeting, because those are the questions I want to pose to the new mayor. Should DHS provide more support to CUAs given their unique vulnerability? Remember, these CUAs, they have to meet an insurance requirement, and DHS won't give them any more money to help them meet that insurance requirement. Yet they have the authority to override these agencies' decisions. Therefore, the question: should DHS provide more support to CUAs given their unique vulnerability? Yes, they should, if they want to maintain their authority to override and to have the final say as it relates to child placement. Secondly, alternatively, should DHS be allowed to override CUA decisions if their agency is open to risks that DHS is largely protected against? Should DHS be allowed to override? No, they should not be allowed if they are not providing the financial support so that these companies can meet their insurance requirement. So no, but it would be yes, depending on how you answer the first one. So the current system seems to prioritize the power and authority of DHS, while potentially leaving CUAs in precarious situations. To ensure a fair and balanced approach to child welfare, it may be time to re-evaluate the distribution of responsibility and immunity within the system. By addressing these concerns, we can work towards a child welfare system that places the best interests of children at its core, while ensuring that accountability is equally shared among all stakeholders. Just so you know that this brief article stems from a wider discussion that was recently carried by us at the Neoliberal Round podcast and published in the Neoliberal Corporation's journal, the Neoliberal Journal, entitled Case Management, CYS and Homelessness News, featuring David Fair of Turning Point for Children, available on our YouTube channel at Ronaldo McKenzie Videos or the Neoliberal Round, and Spotify podcast platform in video, and all major podcast audio platforms such as Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Amazon Music, The Audible, Radio Public, Podvine, P-Adverb, iTunes, so on and so forth, Anchor for Spotify. You can subscribe for free and find your podcast stream by visiting our main podcast platform, anchor.fm/the neoliberal. Again, anchor.fm/the neoliberal. Donate to our podcast at .fm/the neoliberal/support. I'm Ronaldo McKenzie.
And I'm Dante Nelson. Thank you for listening to another round of the Neoliberal Round podcast.
And please remember to visit us at anchor.fm/the neoliberal. Donate and support us. And remember that the Neoliberal Round podcast is a production of the Neoliberal Corporation. We are serving the world today
to solve tomorrow's challenges
by making popular
what with the monopoly.
What good?